Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here on BlazeTV radio and podcast with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre, joined by our BlazeTV colleague Jill Savage here in a moment. We are the Steve Deace Show, brought to you by our friends over at First Cup Coffee Company. They are a Patriot-owned company that stands for the same core values of faith, family, and freedom that you do, but don't buy their coffee for that reason. Do it because it's really good, and then because of that reason. Flavor for every freedom-loving American, and freshness is their jam. They make sure to put the roast on date there on every bag so you know it was shipped to you within days of being roasted. If you want to try it now or try it again, go to firstcup.com and use the promo code DACE for a discount. Firstcup.com, promo code DACE at firstcup.com. Coming up next hour, it'll be your turn on a Feedback Friday, but first we begin with the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with Bleep, Lord Nefarious Says.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad strides
I decided instead of the MAGA movement, we're going to start the MAMA movement. That is Make America, Michigan, and Minnesota again.
Sometimes they leave cell phones, receipts.
That's a kid?
Yeah, that's a stolen car.
Kids speeding past the deputies assigned to stopping this very act.
We got 70 days to act right, y'all.
That's right.
Now, after 7 days, we can go back there and crazy.
I'm a transgender woman. My pronouns are she, her, and I will only accept those pronouns. I will not be addressed any other way. And in the workspace, I'm protected by that. Our students should be too.
New Jersey, how do you cast your vote? My name is Dr. Joey Perella, pronouns she, her, hers. I'm a proud resident of the Garden State. I'm proud to stand with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz because they stand with the LGBTQ community.
I remember being on a date with someone, so I brought him back to my place. Was like, okay, like, I need to tell you something. Like, I'm HIV positive. And I remember he like looked at me. It was like I murdered him. I was like, I thought he was gonna beat the shit out of me. He was like, I can't believe you wouldn't tell me. And like, you gave me HIV. Where HIV is now, like, if you are undetectable, like, you don't necessarily like have to disclose that. I don't think you're putting anyone at any risk that you have to like necessarily go through that. But it's because of the stigma and shame that I feel like I have to disclose.
J.D. Vance calls pregnancy resulting from rape inconvenient. Like, inconvenience is traffic. I mean, make him go through this.
America, make no mistake, Donald Trump is a plague on the American conscience. The other side knows it's easier to play on people's fears and cynicism. Always has been.
I didn't realize I had been in a spiritual desert until they created that oasis on that stage.
He is a clear and present threat to the precious covenant we share with one another. Our job is to convince people that democracy can actually deliver.
I have my choice. In my perfect world, every Republican is out of the country and all the immigrants come in. That's what I want.
Raphael Warnock with the not so subtle "don't miss next time" message there. Okay. So I'm going to ask, because the next topic we're going to get more into the DNC, if you guys can exempt that from your answers to the question that I'm about to ask you in response to Aaron's montage, if you don't mind, if it's possible. So Jill, you get the first crack at it. Ladies and guests first. What was the worst of the worst this week? You get the first question.
This is a terrible week to go first, by the way, Steve. All of that was so bad. But if I can just like kind of carve out a little piece, because Van Jones doesn't technically count as the DNC. Like, he wasn't speaking on stage. He was just on CNN. And when he said that I felt like I was in a spiritual oasis until I saw all these people up there on stage. Well, that's the ultimate problem of everything else that Aaron showed in that video is you're looking to fill a hole of a religious space that you know that you need. And yet then we watch the transgenders and the LGBTQ and even the crime and lawlessness, everything that's going back to just saying, I don't know who I am and why I'm here and what our purpose is to be here. And it all goes back to the fact that they have taken out religion out of every space possible, and they have filled it with transgenders, LGBT, the HIV guy who's saying, I don't even need to go through and tell my partners that this is something because the stigma around it. Well, you know what? It inconveniences me to have to say this and actually own up to this, which the last time I checked, I thought that was against the law. I thought that they could actually report you for a criminal offense if you went out and did something like that. But hey, you know what? You do you, because your feelings are all that matters. And it just shows you that it is going to be revival or bust if we are going to get this back, because you can't live and let live your way out of what we just saw in that montage.
That is, I think we're good here. Everybody want to go ahead and call this a day? I think we're good. I'll just get through the live reads, bullet fashion, Aaron, and we're done. Because that's just cash money right there. I mean, she just encapsulated the entirety of the spirit of the age and every conversation pretty much, other than unless we discuss something, really immature, which we are prone to do. Every other conversation we will have on this show today will be a derivative of all the themes she just touched upon. So, that was good. Todd? Take your best shot.
Well, that HIV positive whatever, here's all of his, her, she, shim, whatever defenders.
She, shim, sham.
And there are a legion of them.
Indeed there
will
are.
Turn right around, the exact same people, and say that person should have the freedom to give you HIV, will say they were the exact same people that said you have to wear the mask, you have to lock down, you have to take the jab. That's insane. But it's not just that population, all of their defenders. The glee that they take in making sure that you feel either in almost every interaction that they control your life. You're going to play Russian roulette with whatever decision you make. That's what they really want. I mean, they want to torment you. They want to torture you. They want to make you feel as insane, as psychotic as they are.
It was a big deal for the first couple of days leading into the DNC about the Democrats, Kamala and Tim Walz, making joy part of their buzzwords, their buzz phrases, and a lot of and I kind of assented to this. You guys are just constantly railing, constantly playing on the divisions, constantly doing this and that. I mean, there's just unabated rage, really. That's either just beneath the surface in the case of Barack Obama, or overt in the case of Andy Bashir, wishing rape upon the family of J.D. Vance. But that's actually perfect. Because along the lines of what Todd said there, they do take joy. They take joy in their insanity. They do take joy in that. I just want to reset something I've said before many times. Modern leftists, modern progressives in the West, in the United States in specific, they are okay if you died. People like you and me. They'd be okay if we all just died.
100%.
They'd be okay with that.
Yep.
But the thing they want most of all is...
Maybe they don't have the balls to make it happen themselves, but they would be okay with that result even indirectly.
The thing they want the most of all is subjugation, which requires you being alive. They want that the most. They really do. As Todd said, they take joy. They take joy in the control that they have over other people and yanking them around as much as they want to. They do take joy in that. So it's a perfect moniker for that campaign.
I'm going to see if I can just go back full circle and put a bow on everything that Jill just talked about, because as I said when she made her initial answer here, everything we're going to do is a summation, which she just summarized. Everything we're going to do is a variation of the themes that she just touched upon. So let me try to provide a summation that also will be in response to what Jill said. How would any other previous generation of Americans responded to a guy showing up looking that damaged, that broken, and that disturbed, to the Oshkosh, Wisconsin school board meeting, demanding to have a say in the affairs of the community's children? How would any other previous generation of Americans have responded to that? That's what I thought. How does this generation respond? Which is why it's happening. Let's get to the exit question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the odds Joe Biden remembers any of his speech late Monday night at the Democratic Convention, and 10 being the odds Lindsey Graham remembers every detail of what he did late last night with some guy he thinks is named Joe, but he's not really sure because it's all a blur, and the names just kind of go together and just pile up at some point for him. Rank this week's level of total depravity, Jill.
10.
10, you like that one? Was that good?
I did. Approved.
Thank you. Todd?
10.
Aaron?
12.
And since you already saw this once, I think that speaks volumes, right? There you go. Before we get to issue 2, don't forget about our friends at Relief Factor, because they might be how you get to finally forget about that pain that you just think you're just never going to get rid of, right? That pain that has turned you from someone who was once agile and mobile and maybe a little hostile into nothing but docile. Now, hey, you might be right. This might be it. We all get old. I don't know that Jill does, okay? But the rest of us all get old, okay? And eventually, these earthly mortal coils do give out, right? So there does come a point in time when the shuffleboard is a chore. But there's pretty good odds that you might be giving up the ghost too soon. How to find out? Our friends at Relief Factor. It's the drug-free supplement created by physicians who can prescribe drugs, whose goal is to go after the inflammation that is the likely cause of the chronic pain that you're struggling with and fighting back against and losing the battle with. All right. So if you don't see a difference in your pain threshold in 3 weeks or less, what do you got to lose? It's just $20. That's what the 3-week quick start at Relief Factor cost just $20 over the years. Over 1 million people have taken the Quick Start Challenge. 70% of them saw such good results in 3 weeks or less that they stick around long term. So why don't you take that challenge? What do you have to lose? Just $20. ReliefFactor.com is where you can go to find out. That's ReliefFactor.com. All right, let's get to issue 2 here, the Demonic Nihilist Convention.
I'd like to attempt to sum up the Democrat National Convention in 4 clips. Clip number 1.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
Clip number 2.
Mike DeMoney! 150,000 people are dead!
Clip number 3.
America, make no mistake, Donald Trump is a plague on the American conscience. He is a clear and present threat.
And clip number 4.
Male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan and the kind of players that came out at the RNC, or might want to listen to that, but also, in addition, understand that it's okay in 2024 to be a man comfortable in his own skin who supports a woman. And that's something that they really are trying to work on with male voters.
First question, Todd, goes to you. That was a good summation, by the way, Aaron. What was your overall biggest takeaway from the demonic nihilists convention?
Well, besides the
fact that they're demonic,
the free
nihilists?
offering of human sacrifice right outside of stores. Yeah, there's that. Listen, it is
the waiting list of men looking to get sterilized right outside their doors as well.
And in this, your book and the movie. I'm telling you this because you can't do anything about it now, or you won't do anything about it now. That's what this is. Folks, either the Democrats know that they've got this in the bank and can do and say whatever they want to because they understand you so well, or they understand that the political realm has been made so shattered and nearly irrelevant because of how people don't want to be citizens anymore, that even if they lose a political election, they have so many other footholds everywhere. That doesn't matter. I'm not entirely sure which one it is, but I just think the fact that they're acting this way is the fact that Steve was right about his book. And as it applies specifically, Tim Walz, there's a verification here of how I was right. J.D. Vance, why instantly? The talking points, he has to be weird because the new norm has to be Tim Walz. And there's just, I'm going to read it to you. It's only this Twitter thread from Inez Stepman from Claremont Institute. It nailed it. The Tim Walz packaging is meant to present a welcoming invitation to white men as part of the Rainbow Coalition. Join the DNC and become merely a joke, not a villain. People who have been tweeting that he's being sold as the bumbling, useless, non-threatening white dad in your typical corporate commercial are dead on. It's the only non-oppressor role for white men available in that worldview. Same reason it's white dudes for Harris and not white men. The latter, too dignified, too threatening. There must be an air of degradation and court jester to the thing. Exactly right. It's what I've been telling you. It's why I hammer you on the lightsaber and the sports bro thing. There's way too many men who are just like, please, just let me go and let me do my favorite hobbies. And yes, let women run everything. I'll take that deal in a heartbeat.
You bet.
Folks, you
Sons
can be
of
mad
Adam
at,
just
you can be
standing
mad
there
at me
while
all
the
you
Eve is
want
deceived.
to. She
Yep.
thinks it too. They know there's no men.
Correct. I mean, 100%. I'm you know what? I'm not even going to try to add anything to that. It's right on the money. Todd.
Aaron.
Or Aaron, I'm sorry. The other Todd, yes.
It's what I said yesterday. These people are butchers. They are butchers. They are a butcher of everything that is good, true, and beautiful on this coil. You're not going to convince me otherwise. It is a pagan death cult. I'm not trying to say that for effect, but it is pagan. Yes, what is pagan? That's apart from God, just base nature. Okay, it preys on all of that. Death cult. They had people getting sterilized, boys getting sterilized, boys who can shave getting sterilized in a bus outside. They reportedly ended the live child sacrifice style of at least 25 babies this week. And they're out and proud about it. It's a pagan death cult. And along the lines of what Todd was saying, either they know, they have some knowledge over there that this thing's never going to work out. And so they're pragmatically, and is that a word that Democrats use often? Not really. Not at least in our era. Pragmatically just throwing this election away. Or they are banking on the fact that we have proven ourselves. We have proven ourselves to be completely without a backbone. This country, the body politic, whatever term you want to call it. We did that back in 2020. We showed them that you can do anything to us, and by and large, we're not really going to fight back. And so why not a full-blown communist ticket? Why not? So it's one of those two things. That's not a good place to be in. Not a good place to be in. So it is a pagan death cult. They are a butcher of everything that's good, true, and beautiful. And all the while, Barack Obama is going to stand up there and say, after Raphael Warnock basically says, don't miss next time, the other side knows they can prey on fear and division. They just prey upon every base instinct, negative base instinct that any human being possesses. And it's a wonder. It's a wonder to watch, and not in a good way.
Let's do this. We've got about 8 minutes to entertain this, based on what all of you guys just said. We talked about, all of you did in your own way, what the Democrats, who the Democrats think they are, and then who we think they are. Based on their convention, who do you think they think the American people are? Based on their convention. Jill, I'll start this one with you. Who do you think that they think we are?
I mean, we are going to be fools that will listen to whatever talking points they put out, because everything that they say, Todd always says, the lie is the point. They don't expect us to rise up and demand anything of them. The way that Kamala Harris is running her campaign, we don't even have any policies from her outside of a couple communist, socialist economic policies. That's all we know that Kamala is going to do. So who do they think we are? They think that we are the most gullible people that will go along with anything, because I believe that the biggest takeaway that I had from the Democratic convention was we are very lucky that it's not Michelle Obama that is running, and it is instead Kamala Harris, because while Michelle Obama says terrible things, she says them very well. And when you look at it, what they're doing right now is they are still running the anti-Trump campaign. And that's going to be good enough for so many of the Democratic voters. They just want anything that is not Donald Trump. They don't need any policies put behind it, because they will listen like good little useful idiots that they are.
So would you agree with this statement, Jill, that Democrats believe anybody who would remotely consider voting for them cares more about the emotional attachment to a candidate than their actual beliefs, and or has made their reasons for voting and beliefs based in emotion more than any other instinct or impulse? Would you say that that's an accurate assumption of what they think about whom their particular most likely voters are?
Always and forever with the Democrats. It's always emotional.
Todd?
Here's where the Democrats and I are in total agreement. And it's what Inez Stephan said. A clown. A joke. They're right. We're not serious. We're not remotely close to being citizens.
Would you say that they couldn't have possibly been this open about what they really want to do if they weren't right?
About that?
Yes.
No.
Because they would just be completely laughed off the national stage. If they had done all these same things 20 years ago that had been laughed off a national stage, right?
They've been programming this algorithm for a right time, but this is the Matrix. They know most people have become cipher. Ignorance is bliss. And it's a lot of people who say, well, no, I voted Republican. No, citizens. Out there, something other than a vote every once in a while. The people that make sure that you cross this line, there's going to be problems. We just don't, that's nowhere. This thing is whether it's this election or not, it's all a guaranteed loss, right? They know that. They absolutely know that, and they're right.
Aaron?
I think what the Democrats think of the American people is one word that says a lot of things, and that word is expendable. And we got here through a lot of the things that Todd is talking about and a lot of the things that Jill is talking about. But they are telegraphing. We communicated to them that we are jokes. That's the communication that we did. By and large, we made that crystal clear in 2020, like what I just said a few moments ago. We communicated to them that we're jokes, that we're clowns, that we're not serious about citizenship. And so now they're communicating to us and saying, well, okay, that's a fair game. We're going to completely unleash hell because of this. So I think they see their own people now as expendable. They certainly see the broader public as expendable to attaining their goals of complete and utter dominance and power.
As good little communists do.
Yes, that's always the end game.
All right, we've got about 3 minutes. Jill, I'm going to go back to you for this. In comparison, whom do you think the Republican Party thinks the American people are?
I mean, when we look at the fact that we still don't have any answers from a Donald Trump assassination attempt, what is it, 7 weeks ago now? We need to demand more. But when you look at what the Republicans do, Donald Trump, is he messaging to the people, or is he messaging to just, the revenge tour for Donald Trump and the thing that he needs? So when you try and break down what does that Republican voter want, well, they want someone that's going to come out there with the Hulk Hogan, like America first, all of that. But we only need like that high level, just throw us a little bit of the red meat and we'll be fine. And we'll go and vote and we'll get it. We buy the books, we listen to the podcast, we do the rah-rah. And then we don't expect anything to actually change, though, right? Like nothing that we're doing on the local level, the just state level, outside of what Ron DeSantis is basically doing in Florida, is making huge differences. Kim Reynolds there in your state of Iowa. But you can't say that is a blueprint that has swept the rest of the red states across the country.
So you think that Republicans also believe that by and large, the people most likely to vote for them are also pretty shallow. Just a different kind of shallow.
They'd be a different kind of shallow. We need the red meat more than the leftists do, where the leftists are okay with just the anti-Trump vote. You say that, they're in lockstep with you. And, a lot of people on the right, unfortunately, are just the cult of personality also with Donald Trump. I think that now we might be getting a little bit more substance with the J.D. Vance coming behind him, but that's not 100% right now at this point that we know that's going to happen. So the right understands that or believes that it's the people that would vote for them, by and large, just want talking points, something simple to glom onto, but an actual plan or in-depth profile on issues. You don't think that they think that that's actually what the people that would vote for them want? And they might be right. I'm just asking. I don't know. If somebody came out with a contract with America, I'd say, oh my gosh, here we go, right? Mm-hmm. But we haven't seen anything like that since Newt Gingrich, and he's now, just out here doing the TV shows and stuff. That's nobody in Congress is pushing forward, trying to say this is what needs to happen for the American people.
Okay. Next question. If where you think the election stands coming out of the two parties' conventions were a Foo Fighters song, which Foo Fighters song would it be and why? A, Monkey Wrench, B, The Pretender, C, Best of You, or D, Waiting on a War? And you can pick these for any reason you want. You can define why you picked that one. Aaron.
D.
You picked Waiting on a War? Why'd you pick that?
Because that's what we're doing. I mean, I don't think it really needs too much more explanation.
Okay. Todd.
Same.
Jill.
Same. Whenever you're saying waiting for war, that's what we're getting into. That's where we're heading.
Well, if the scenario that you articulated, that both parties by and large believe the people most likely to vote for them are shallow at the essence, although different, reasons and or different motivations and manifestations of shallowness, but shallow nevertheless, then you guys would all be right eventually, because these things these existential cosmic differences between these two worldviews cannot just be on a permanent basis swept asunder and overlooked. They just can't. I mean, there's not an amount of money where each side decides, all right, the money's so good, time to beat our swords into plowshares. We will do it. We know they won't do that, right? You see that in the clip from the guy saying, hey, we just got to win this election and we go back to being crazy, right? We know they're not going to do that. We know that there's not going to be any self-awareness over there at all. They're going to press on with the color revolution. And so if we're going to respond with shallowness and kind and not take advantage of the peaceable means by which we have to push back at what they're doing, then we are creating this scenario where D would unfortunately end up becoming true by our own inaction, unfortunately. More in a moment.
Steve Deace Show.
If you are tired and frustrated by a stalling economy, inflation, endless wars, the relentless assault on our values, thankfully there are companies out there like Patriot Mobile that still believe in America and its Constitution. That's why we are proud to partner with them here on The Blaze, because they're on the front lines of fighting for the First, Second Amendments, sanctity of life, our military, our first responder heroes, and all of our America First values. So you can take a stand for those exact same causes by switching to Patriot Mobile today and also getting a better product than what you currently have, especially in the customer service department. You're going to get the same nationwide coverage as the big providers who hate you, but Patriot Mobile also operates across all major networks, so you can switch anytime you want. Plus, they back their service with coverage guarantees and 100% U.S.-based customer service team that you'll actually be able to understand should you ever need them. So keep your number, keep your phone, switch your phone, upgrade, whatever you wish to do. When you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve, that's patriotmobile.com/Steve, and use the offer code Steve to get a free month of coverage. A free month of coverage at patriotmobile.com/Steve. That's patriotmobile.com/Steve. Let's welcome back in our Blaze TV colleague, Jill Savage. Check out her program each weeknight here at The Blaze, Blaze News Tonight. As we march on with your weekly look at the week that was, let's get to issue 3. Is it still the economy, stupid?
This week, gold hit a record high. Lumber costs are reaching record lows. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics revised the number of jobs created from last March through April of this year downward by 818,000, which is the equivalent population of the nation's 18th largest city. Inflation continues to be a major issue, and yet the Kamala economic policies unveiled thus far include price controls for food, an unrealized gains tax of 25%, and a nearly 45% capital gains tax.
Jill, this is your wheelhouse, so we'll start with you.
Yeah.
How do Democrats possibly run successfully on this economic record and these economic policies? How can they possibly do that?
Well, what they've tried to do at the DNC and the switch out with Kamala Harris, who, by the way, I think that every time we talk about Kamala, we need to say that no one has ever put a vote in for candidate Kamala Harris at this point, and yet now she is the Democrat nominee on the ticket. But they've been trying to run away from this for the last 3.5 years and switch out and say, okay, no, this isn't going to be the same old thing. They're running as though they're not the incumbent party. Mm-hmm. But you saw there the zero hedge tweet that Aaron had on the screen with the unrealized gains.
Explain that to our audience if you don't mind.
That you have money in the stock market. You're right. You have Nvidia stock. Nvidia stock goes up. You are now taxed on those gains, even though you don't have the money.
Yeah, you've not liquidated them
in your
yet.
account.
Exactly. You've not
It's
received any
still
ROI
there.
or dividend. You're being taxed for money you've never received.
You have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So now you're getting taxed the highest rate since 1922 on the capital gains tax at 44.6%. With the unrealized gains, you're getting taxed on money that you don't even have. The corporate tax rate at 28% and price control. So how are you expected to, as bad as the economy is right now, if these things are put into place, you will own nothing and be happy. That is where they are trying to go. You will not have any extra money. And it's a huge deal. The fact that they went through and revised that job number from back in the spring down 818,000. Our buddy Ed Dowd said that is the largest payroll revision since the global financial crisis. So what they did is they put a lot of companies are making hiring, firing choices, R&D, trying to figure out what am I going to do for my company based on the numbers that the government gave them. And now you are going to have an unwind from all of this because everybody's going to know the genie is out of the bottle now. The economy is so much worse off than they were trying to tell us. And I think that people could feel it, but you would still look at the numbers and say, well, they still look okay. So maybe this economic downfall is just my own company, my own community. It's only happening to us. No, what's going to happen is everybody is going to realize that this economy is not doing very well at all. And it's going to be the thing that people didn't realize on a broad scale that will now become common knowledge.
Todd, what do you think?
Listen, once you, as I feared, once you accept transgenderism, you will believe in anything. And socialism is coming down the tracks, and they're clapping like trained seals. California, 0 interest loans to illegal immigrants. And there's people are just fetishizing all other manner of things now. So I don't, the economy's stupid was kind of like, it felt like a fail-safe in the past.
Yeah, for people that don't know, that's the unofficial slogan. The official slogan of the Clinton 1992 campaign was putting people first, but unofficially the campaign coined the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid," to demonstrate how out of touch George H.W. Bush was, that he refused to address what was the primary concern of the people.
Yeah, but after transgenderism and then COVID, you cheer for being a slave. You resent having to be a citizen. It's all the same stuff. I don't, if I'm wrong, this is likely to be, if it's still in effect, that would be the thing that would carry Donald Trump more than anything. But again, as you've said, until I see, I don't believe it's going to. I believe we've become utterly uninterested in governing ourselves. We want to be taken care of, and there's just zero signs that the healthy bottom line, family. Look at corporations, how they've gone against that interest over and over and over again with DEI nonsense. I'm not going to put any hope, any stock into the fact that it's the economy stupid is still alive. You've got to prove it to me.
Aaron?
Who is their base? J.D. Vance was right. He was right. He was right. Who is their base? It's the childless cat lady.
The audience of The View.
The audience of The View.
And people who view themselves as oppressed minorities.
Do you think those people give two wits about an Aaron and Bella McIntyre with 2 kids wanting more, or Anna...
no, because you already have 2 kids too many.
We have 2 kids too many.
And
so
you married
of course
a chick.
That's not. So of course all of this is not only just an okay idea, it's a great idea. They are excellent on their side at rewarding their own and punishing those who dissent. So of course, who is the opposite? It's young families or families in general. That is what they are against. Again, they are butchers of good, true, and beautiful. That economic policy is a butcher of the economy, which, as Todd likes to point out, root word, Todd, is what?
Economia, the household.
Yes.
So these are the kinds of policies that when Todd and I were growing up in our era, Republicans tried to say Democrats were actually for, and really meant with code words, but they denied for decades, and now they're openly running on this stuff. Let's take the same question, a variation of the question I asked you guys about the 2 conventions, and apply it here for just a minute. Jill, I'll start with you quickly. If the American people buy this on November 6th, just straight up, not even fettered, not even camouflaged, or just straight up, some open form of Marxism, we take that to mean what moving forward into the future?
We deserve what's coming. If they are openly going to say, yes, Comrade Kamala, come on board, please, then we deserve everything that's coming to us because we had alternatives. We didn't have to go this route. That's it.
Todd?
Yeah, well, it's that this show was prescient and has been for a very long time about the consequences of removing God from his proper role in how this nation was founded. A moral and religious people and no other. I mean, it's really going to be game over.
Aaron?
I think we will know once and for all that what Jesse Kelly has been harping on over and over again is correct. The country was actually lost 16 years ago, not in any ensuing election. It was lost in 2008.
When a guy with a great personal story and an inspirational persona was allowed to win as kind of the camel's nose under the tent here.
Who said he wanted to fundamentally change America.
And we decided
to
nominate John McCain as the alternative to that? Yeah, because that was great. Exit question. Let's do the inverse here. Give me a letter grade for the current economic messaging from the Trump campaign to counter all of this. Aaron.
D.
Why a D?
Because the top of the ticket isn't actually the campaign. The bottom of the ticket is. Now, if we were asking, hey, how's the running mate? I would give an A+. But the top of the ticket needs to be in on this as well.
Todd.
C at best.
Same reasons or different ones?
Yeah.
By and large.
I mean, he's not. He refuses to stay on target and hammer a theme.
No, in fact, Trump 2 days ago said we're going to let so many people in.
He's just today. Somebody said he was bragging about ventilators again.
Jill.
C at best, just like Todd said. And if you count the J.D. Vance and Elon Musk, that's an A. Elon Musk isn't actually part of the campaign, but he's doing better economic messaging for Trump than Trump is himself.
You know why this is happening? Because Trump is off message. Okay? Goes back to what we said before. He is trying to run a campaign strategy like he's Mitt Romney and it's 2012, and there's some mushy middle that he somehow didn't get. Okay? And that he's off message. I mean, the level of issue messaging from Donald Trump in this cycle compared to 2016 is just not even freaking close. It's just not even close. Let's get to the kicker topic this week for issue 4. If you could choose one Jew to make Candace Owens have lunch with, which Jew would it be and why? Todd?
Jerry Seinfeld. Think next stand-up special, he's already done this. Somebody, a pro-Palestinian, somebody tried to heckle him.
Yeah.
And he just bam. I mean, did a whole riff right off the top of his head. Now with all this material, that's gold, Jerry. That's gold.
You don't think Jerry's going to have a problem with her? Actually, you're not a Jew. You're part of the Zionist Franks.
He's a comedic.
Okay. You think he's probably going to be able to kick that one in the balls? You think pretty easily?
He'll figure out something.
Yeah, I think he'll probably. I think maybe half his brain tied behind his back because she's barely using that. Jill, what about you? If you had to force Candace to have lunch with a Jew, who would it be?
Mel Brooks is still alive, right?
He is.
Is he still alive?
He is.
We
it is still. You know what? Mel could teach Candace it's springtime for Hitler. Is that what you're thinking? It's springtime for Hitler. Yeah, you should do that. I'm feeling you.
Non-PC day.
I mean, Candace walks in, Mel just screams out, "Hey, where are the white women at?" Is that what you're kind of thinking? Something along those lines, something like that.
Yeah,
I'm digging it. Aaron.
How about Jesus of Nazareth?
Well,
I think
seems like an obvious choice that maybe should have already been made.
She might be able to learn a few things.
She can look at actually, you're not really Jewish, but you're part of the German. You're part of the Franks who something. Yeah. Quick question. Tell me what happened, anything good happens anytime a sentence begins with,
oh no.
Do you know who I am? And actually. I mean, anytime a sentence begins with, do you know who I am? And actually, one time anything good transpired after a sentence began with one, if not all of those words go. Indeed. All right, let's move on to predictions. Aaron, go ahead. Actually, no, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Aaron.
As much as it pains me to say, and this week has been nauseating, my prediction is that we have not yet begun to see the Yas Queen, Kamala is God honeymoon from the
Goddess.
media. Goddess.
Yes.
From the media. We will see polls in the coming weeks, within 3 or 4 weeks, absolutely crooked, cooked polls, showing Kamala is actually leading in places like Iowa. That's how bad I think it's going to get.
I could completely see that. At least between now and September the 10th. All right. And everything, I hate to go Emperor Palpatine here, but everything is proceeding exactly as I foresaw it. I told you the night of the debate, Biden would be gone. I told you what would happen next. Whoever they put in there, you would see the most obnoxious PR offensive in modern human history. I told you 2 weeks ago that what you thought was the peak was actually just the end of the beginning. All right, that was just the foreplay phase. We're doing the Caligula orgy this week in Chicago. And then what will come afterwards is what Aaron, you just articulated, when they'll really lay it on thick, because they got to build her up as much as possible before they have to let her go out there on her own, okay, and drive the car on September the 10th against Trump and see what happens. So, yeah, I agree with you. Todd.
I have the obvious yin to this entire show's yang in terms of viewership, attendance, money made. This edition of the Tower of Babel that is college and pro football will just shatter every metric. It will just be gluttonous, hedonistic joy in the face of civilizational decline.
I can't wait till the first game this weekend, guys. What about you?
I'm going to have to mute Todd Urson. Same way I muted Michigan podcast. Wake up on a Saturday morning. Oh, man, finally get to enjoy some. I've done my due diligence. I've done my work as husband and father. Get to enjoy some things.
Jill, your prediction, go ahead.
I promise you, this is what it was before. Todd,
Oh, no.
earmuffs.
Oh, no.
Happy week 0 to those who celebrate. College football is back. We have made it. And it's a 12-team college football playoff. So my final 4 is Georgia, Ohio State. And then the U's are going to battle it out with Miami and Utah. And because I like Utah the best, I'm just going to pick them to win it because that's what I want to have happen.
I don't need earmuffs. All this does is confirm I'm right.
Jill,
that's it.
This would be a good opportunity for you to remind our audience what you got for a beverage.
I was just going to
yesterday.
ask her that. Jill, what did you have to drink before you came on here? What did you have to drink?
It's pumpkin spice latte season, baby. I got one already in honor.
Steve is crossing
Bless you, my child.
himself.
Yes, indeed.
Todd is about to eject.
I like being
I bought
right.
them for some of them in the office, too.
Yes.
They were ready. They were ready.
My prediction is Trump's got to win whites by at least 17 points to win the election. Got to win them by at least 17. And I know, well, Stevie said 2 weeks ago he's got to win independents. A lot of independents are going to be in those whites. And a lot of those suburban megachurch Christian women who can't stand Trump but are very pro-life, they're in those whites too. So he's got to win whites by at least 17 points to win the election, I believe. He won them by 20. Just to give you guys some context, he won them by 20 in 2016. All right. And he won them by 17 in 2020.
Just to be clear, you're talking about whites named Julio and Jamal, correct?
No. Who said that? Because it's one of the dumbest political takes I've ever heard.
Gates or somebody?
Was it Matt Gates? It's one of the dumbest political takes I've ever heard. One of the dumbest ever. And that, I mean, this is an era where one of the dumbest is said daily, and that is one of the dumbest political takes I've ever heard. Jill, enjoy your weekend. Thank you for joining us. Have another pumpkin spice latte on us. Thank you.
Happy week 0.
Indeed. Same to you. We'll come back. It'll be Feedback Friday here in a moment. Stay tuned. Back here with hour 2 to close it out here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todd Urson, Aaron McIntyre, and all of you. And all of you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Just email us, steve@stevedeace.com, DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. Follow me on X, Instagram, Getter, and TikTok. You can also, if you wouldn't mind, and you haven't done this yet, leave us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. We thank all of you who have done that for us. We appreciate each and every one. You can also hit subscribe, or if you're on iTunes, follow. That way you'll make sure that every time we do one of these new episodes, it'll be right there in your podcast feed every single time. And this part of the show brought to you by our friends at Backyard Butchers. They're a Christian, conservative, Texas-based company dedicated to delivering the best deals in the market on high-quality beef. Your box will include all born and raised American beef from ranches and farms right here in the heartland of America, ranch and farm to table, with their outstanding customer service team of American stay-at-home moms as well, so you can understand them and you know that they will have that thing on lockdown. The meat tastes amazing, grass-fed, grain-finished. You definitely can taste the difference, trust me on that. And it's why they have over 500,000 happy customers across America and so many 5-star reviews online. So This is the meat you want today. 20% off your first entire order. And when you subscribe, get an additional 10% off and free shipping when you go to backyardbutchers.com/Deace. Backyardbutchers.com/Deace. Get 20% off your entire order. And when you subscribe, an additional 10% off and free shipping at backyardbutchers.com/Deace. All right, you guys ready to roll with some Feedback Friday?
Let's have it.
Let us begin with Scott K. Lowe, who writes, I'm sitting here, coffee cup in hand, listening to your show as I do every day. I've attempted to reach you before, but have not yet heard back. I realize you are busy and receive many messages every day. I am offering something of value, something I think you will find worthy of pursuing. In fact, 2 somethings. So let me see if I can catch your attention. Consider this.
Is this a Nigerian prince?
If I don't hear from you, if I don't hear from you within 72 hours, I will kill the chipmunk that is eating all the bird seed in my bird feeder. I will not continue to shoo him away, but actually eliminate him from this planet Earth and send him to the great bird feeder in the sky. I value the life of all of God's creatures, which you do too, but I will become aggressive despite the general commonalities we both possess. 72 hours, Steve. Just 72 hours. And I had just stopped reading at this point. I'm going to stop reading it right now because he sent this to us weeks ago. So the 72 hours have expired. It's already too late. So,
Poor chipmunk.
Poor chipmunk. Here's looking out, Scott. All right.
You going to tell us after the show what that was actually about?
No, I stopped reading and then deleted it. I just realized I missed the deadline, so there's no use kidding. I mean, that chipmunk has suffered enough. Suffered enough. No use killing that poor chipmunk again. He's dead already. Don't need to kill him twice. Let's go here. Douglas Gurnetsky writes, take this for what it's worth, because I'm an atheist. I was listening to your show this morning and to your interview with the Christian rock guy, that's John Cooper. By the way, we got a ton of good reaction to that one. A lot of y'all liked that Evergreen, so make sure John knows that, Todd, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay. I also listened to Joe Rogan, and the other day he had on, Adam Sandler. And they were talking about the old days of stand-up with guys like Sam Kinison, and Joe Rogan kept emphasizing that he was blown away by Sam's projection and his oratory skills as a comedian because of his background as a preacher. I did not know this. Did you know that Sam Kinison was a preacher?
Oh, yeah.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
What church was this?
I don't know, but yeah.
The Church of Orifice? I mean, what church was this?
Yeah.
I had no idea that Sam Kinison was a preacher. Yeah. I had no idea. Okay. Anyway, the emailer here, Douglas says, here comes my idea, and you probably know where I'm going. No, I don't. Steve, all the good comedians are smart as hell. You know it and I know it. And you don't have dumb comedians that really make it very far. I'm an atheist, however. I think it would be wise for you to do stand-up comedy as well. I'm not joking, and you probably have already thought of this yourself. I have not. But if you weren't sure, I'm telling you to be sure. If you want to get your story across to people that are out here in the non-believing land, and I've heard you talk, I listen to your show religiously, even though I'm an atheist, ha ha ha. But I've listened to you, and you will talk straight up theology, and then you will say some funny stuff like you said with this guy in this interview that I'm listening to, where he said that you can find them like references to like outside burning lung darts. And when you say funny stuff like that, which is really revealing stuff, you catch people off guard, and pretty soon they're actually listening to you and not only laughing with you, but also taking maybe the part of the story that you want to project into their thinking, and they're thinking about it the next day, like they would if they saw a good comedian the previous night. So take it for what I see, and I really do see and hear that I think you should do a stand-up routine, and you should work on it. You should hone your skills that are already there and going in front of an audience to do it. Again, that is signed from Douglas. That is from Douglas Gurnetsky, who signs it. Who knows? You might convert me someday. I gotta say, I don't see it.
Yeah, this is like, you're that clever land shark, aren't you? I'm just a dolphin man. Yeah, I think
how do I get Steve Deace out there to utterly humiliate himself? Is that what this is about?
Yes.
Yeah.
You smile too much.
I do smile too much.
Yeah.
Comedians aren't permitted. I don't do a lot of modern comedians. Like the last time I followed comedians was like probably when Sam Kinison was still alive. The Chris Farley, Phil Hartman, Dana Carvey, Adam Sandler era of SNL. That's, maybe. Well, no. And then Oh gosh, how would Ricky Bobby? How am I forgetting Ricky Bobby? What's his name?
Will Ferrell?
Will Ferrell. That's like the end of my comedian era, and that was almost close to the end right there. Yeah. So like, is it Theo, not Huxtable? Who's the Theo that Donald Trump just talked to?
Theo Vaughn.
Yeah, I'd never heard the name in my life until you had it in your montage the other day. Never heard of it. So I don't know what today's comedians do. I mean, when we were growing up, there was a great variety. I mean, Eddie Murphy laughed at his own stuff all the time. All right, Sam Kinison just screamed at you. Who's the guy, Steven, that we often compare Aaron to, with just the complete flat, Steven Weber, the complete.
Oh, right.
Stephen Wright. Thank you. The deadpan delivery, right? And then you had kind of the wise guy, Rodney Dangerfield, routine, and then Don Rickles, who just, Don Rickles just insults you right to your face and your mom and make you laugh. I mean, it was there was a lot of diversity of presentation when we were growing up. I mean, Richard Pryor was just doing, heroin. So there was just a different, you had the Helter Skelter of Robin Williams. Is there not as much diversity in presentation of the comedians of your era, Aaron?
I just think across the board from the comedians that I've watched my entire life, whether that's Brian Regan, who has a different style of comedy from, who's the ventriloquist guy? I can't remember his name now. Just kind of across the board, Joe Rogan. It seems like their delivery, they'll smile, but it seems like when they're delivering the punchiest of punchlines, their delivery is always very deadpan.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Aaron McIntyre deadpan, it's just straight, I guess I should say.
Okay. Now, I will tell you, this is the first time someone has suggested stand-up comedy to me. Like, I think our buddy Jesse Kelly could do it. I mean, the way that I just see him deliver ironic observations, deadpan, I think he could do it with some training. I think he could. Plus the fact that he's so tall, kind of adds to the, the irony of his presentation. So this is the first time that someone has suggested to me about doing stand-up comedy. I will tell you I have, and this is kind of shocking to me, but on second thought, given what I know about myself, maybe it should not be. But I mean, it has been suggested to me many times to do nude modeling. Todd, your thoughts?
See, that wasn't funny at all.
I know. See, I'm not any good.
Not funny.
Yeah, I know. I'm not any good. And that's why you don't want to take the word of an atheist. You just don't want to do that.
Like I said,
he's starting with a flawed premise.
He's the land shark.
He missed the most obvious fact in all of the world. So from that point forward, you probably don't want to take his suggestions,
sniffed
right?
out the land shark right away. Yeah.
But you did still not give me your thoughts about me nude modeling. I would like to know, and I think America would like to know, Todd. What do you think?
I have no thoughts, never will. Aaron's vomiting in a cup over there. See, I'm funny.
Aaron's vomiting in a cup over there. All right, let's move on. Mark and Lane in Indiana want to know. All right, let's get serious, and I mean it. I'm not tongue-in-cheek. This is going to be serious. Based on how Trump dealt with COVID in 2020, what's your biggest concern about Trump in 2025 and thereafter if he got a second term? My biggest concern is they just drop another existential crisis on him and he panics. I don't think it'll be another scamdemic. I think it could be, for example, an even worse economic recession and downturn than 2008. And they got George W. Bush, who signed into law at the time the biggest tax cuts in American history. They got him to then turn around and suspend free market principles to save the free market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what could you get Trump to do? Trump already has some very unorthodox views on some of these topics. So you stick him with another, and the new 2 million people are going to die, like what they kept threatening him with during COVID. You don't want that on your conscience, right? So the new thing is, there's going to be soup kitchens and dust bowls and, stuff your grandparents told you about because he'll be in his 80s. So if you don't, unless you give us, all the stuff from Kamala we were just talking about during the break, you got to give us price controls. And they're just going to be temporary, of course, until we, like the lockdowns, just temporary for an indeterminate amount of time. We can't tell you how long it'll take, just as long as it takes. That's my concern. My concern is that they will take some other form of an existential crisis, drop it on him. His lack of intellectual curiosity and spiritual discernment, and the fact that Donald Trump does not like to accept responsibility for things. You freak him out by putting him in a situation to have to accept responsibility for the kinds of things no one would want to accept responsibility for, right? No one would want that on their conscience. And so you tell him you have to do these things in order to stop this calamity, and it'll be just temporary, of course, just long enough for us to get you out of office, basically. I mean, that's what I think. That's, in fact, I've already made that prediction. If he wins, I think that sometime it'll even be in the very first year. They will, whatever they're doing right now to artificially inseminate this economy, I think they pull the plug. They Kevorkian that thing. They pull the plug on all of it and drop it right in his lap and say, okay, kid, go get him. That's what I think is happening, or will happen, I mean.
Oh, I think that's a guarantee that something like that's going to happen. My ancillary worry to that is that he'll be so happy he won, and that'll be
the vindication
and
enough.
That'll be it.
MacArthur returning to the Philippines, basically.
And he won't realize or care that personnel is policy. He won't realize how badly he screwed up in various ways last time had to do with he had the wrong people around him. He won't hire good people this time. And it'll make what Steve said, which I think is almost certainty, then it'll make all that, it almost guarantee that he simply can't deal with it. I mean, really, even if he wins, as we've said, it's like to me, it's a flip of a coin that he has just like a flip of a coin that he has something resembling the first 3 years of his presidency at best. Just because I don't know if he truly yet understands what the hell is going on, as much as he's had to suffer for it personally.
So I just listened to a clip from a recent interview with Dr. Scott Atlas, and I'm not familiar with the person who was interviewing him, and I can't remember. So
I'm sure that was not edifying.
It was not.
And Scott Atlas's clips usually are not.
2 minutes and 20 seconds, I believe, of just a top-line recollection of his time on the White House coronavirus task force. And it was painful to remember, but just him itemizing. Debbie Birx, he said she put together all sorts of charts that an elementary school child could do. Arbitrary uses of colors, arbitrary uses of terms. Green was good, red is bad. Those types of things that are not really data-driven. Speaking of data, he always brought data to the table with these coronavirus task force meetings. Nobody ever argued with data. He said nobody at that table did. What they did do is argue with studies. Well, they brought the study, and he'd point out, hey, it's a flawed study. It's a flawed process of how they got to their top-line result. Never argued with him about that. Their excuse was always, well, you're an outlier. And he said, that's not how you do science. That's not how you do debate. And it's just overall just a sophomoric atmosphere. That's my fear. So what needed, again, along with the cleaning up the voter fortification schemes across the country, which I don't think really has happened. What needed to happen is like an organization like the Heritage Foundation needed to come along years before a potential second Trump administration, formulate like a LinkedIn for like serious conservative operators who know how the gears of government work. Put that together with the aims of staffing a second Trump administration. That needed to... Never mind.
That was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me balance it the other side. I do think Trump 2.0 would have two advantages over what Trump 1.0 had in these situations. And I think they are significant advantages that we should consider. Number one, J.D. Vance over Mike Pence, I think, is a significant advantage.
Agreed.
Okay. And Vance also kind of comes out of the hybrid traditional conservative MAGA world of like Claremont, and which those are, I know a lot of those people, they're serious thinkers. He's a devotee disciple of that faction of the party, and might even have a singular working testicle, unlike Mike Pence, who has none. So significant advantage there. Like I cannot see J.D. Vance getting extensively worked over for months and months on end by a figure, whatever the new issue crisis they drop on him is, the equivalent to Debbie Birx is. I can't see that happening.
Your point just accents what I said about personalist policy all the more. If his entire cabinet, pound for pound, roughly resembles that versus 100 Mike Pence's, which you said he had last time,
right?
Talk to me.
Let's say RFK Jr., for example, were to be appointed
Health and
along
Human
those lines,
Services, yeah.
and it's not CIA. I don't think it'll ever be that, but it's not even HHS. Let's just say he's just one of the commissioners on the FDA. Could you imagine what some of those meetings that they had about approving these things? Just his voice being there, the difference that would have made in 2020, for example.
Tulsi, people with chips on their shoulder,
Correct.
they're just like,
Yep.
yeah, I'm here to settle some scores.
Even if Trump could only doesn't have the balls to do something as extensive as 2025, which is what you were pointing out, Aaron, correctly. Even if he were just batting 250 with some of these appointments, the difference would be stark. Okay. The other big advantage is I don't think the Jared and Ivanka wing of the family are calling the shots right now. I think the Don Jr. and Eric Trump wing of the party, who are especially Don Jr., very, very close to Tucker Carlson. I think they're calling the shots. I think that J.D. Vance is their guy. That's why he's on the ticket. Okay. I think Don Jr. is the guy who's the most in tune with the movement side of this. Him and his interest are financially partnering with lots of organizations and groups on the right, some of whom we even talk about on this show and promote on this show, for example. And then I think it's very clear that Eric Trump is being groomed to run for office in the future. He was the one that actually gave the issue, speech at the convention and laid out what the agenda was before Dad got up there to speak. And again, I don't know that either one of those guys is necessarily one of us, but they're way closer to us than either Jared or Ivanka was. So I think those, and if you know how the Trump White House ran, and Scott Atlas will tell you this, Jared Kushner was basically prime minister of the Trump presidency. So those are two, I think, tremendous advantages over what occurred before as some kind of bulwark against Trump's worst instincts.
I agree. It seems his daughter and son-in-law seem to have moved stage left, but I'm not as bullish on that the sons have replaced him, because I don't understand then why this campaign is like, again, the speech Eric gave during the it may have been the speech that Trump was going to give all along before he almost got shot, but during the convention, and then he comes, I just like, they can't be happy with this. And if they are happy with this, who cares that his daughter and son-in-law were replaced, because it's not getting any better. It's hard to be as bullish as that one.
If you are going into the real estate market, make sure you've got a trusty guide to get you through. Where would you find them? Well, the website says it all. realestateagentsitrust.com. That's where you can go to make sure that you've got someone with a verified track record of success, and we verified it, otherwise we wouldn't list them. Someone with a verified track record of success, someone who a lot of times also going to share your values. Not all, but the vast majority of the agents we recommend to you around the country are going to come from right here in the same Blaze audience that you're a part of as well. So this is probably, when you look at the mortgage rates, home values, discretionary income, where we're at in the market, it's quite possibly the toughest home market in American history. So in these unprecedented times,
bing, 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 bing.
Indeed, all the dings. Make sure you've got an agent you can trust, whether you want to get across town or across the country. And the name says it all. Head over to realestateagentsitrust.com. Once again, head over to realestateagentsitrust.com. Bill writes, I try to agree with God, but I'm having trouble with Hebrews 13, verse 17. Paul writes, or we think Paul, we're not sure. A lot of people think it's Paul. I'm not sure that it is, because why would Paul not introduce himself like he does in everything else that he writes? But the writer of Hebrews says, quote, have confidence in your leaders and submit to their authority, because they keep watch over you as those who must give an account. Do this so that their work will be a joy, not a burden, for that would be of no benefit to you. Bill continues, please tell me this is one of those passages meant for a particular audience at a specific time in history and not meant for all people at all time periods. Well, Bill, I've got bad news for you, because it's meant for all people in all time periods. Now, in Hebrews, we're specifically talking about leaders within the faith in this verse, but there are other places like Paul in Romans 13, Peter in one of his epistles, where this is attributed to a civic or secular setting, although the Bible doesn't see things as secular. It sees things as either the kingdom of God or the kingdom of man or the enemy. Okay.
Can you read exactly what passage? I just want to follow
Hebrews 13, verse 17.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So, but whether this is being specifically applied to what it means to live in the world in a civic realm, like what Peter and Paul do when they mention it, or it's meant even in an ecclesiastical setting, like what the writer of Hebrews is talking about in this verse. The same principle actually applies. Never forget, there is a chain of command. There is a chain of command, right? Even Protestants who think that because Todd is a Catholic, he follows the Pope and not the Bible. What you've seen Todd do is when he thinks the Pope is speaking unbiblically, is actually pray for the Pope's papacy to end. Right? Why? Why would he do that? Okay, because he's not just following the Pope over the Bible. What he's doing is saying the Pope has violated the chain of command. He is acting outside of his calling, as I see it as a Catholic, as the Church sees it as an institution. So there is always a chain of command. All right, when your leader, so here in Hebrews, talking about an ecclesiastical or church setting, all right, within the covenant. When a false teacher emerges, do not follow the false teacher. Follow Christ. In a civic realm, when the government system demands you do something that Christ says you cannot do, you are to follow Christ. One of the greatest examples of this you see is Daniel in the Old Testament. Daniel is essentially put on he is essentially appointed by Darius. Once the Medo-Persian Empire conquers the Babylonians, Darius essentially puts him on their kingdom's version of the Supreme Court at the end of his life, or the closest thing to it. He's a satrap, and one of the lead ones. And yet, Darius also makes a decree that he has to be worshipped as God for the next 30 days. How many of those next 30 days does Daniel worship Darius as God, do you think? Can you guess?
Small.
Pretty small. Like, what's the smallest number?
Round.
Yeah. 0.
Yeah.
0 times. Darius loves Daniel. Daniel serves, and as far as we know, loves Darius, serves him capably. Never once, though, does he worship him as God. He honors the king. Darius is king. He gives him the honor he is owed. When Darius as king says, I am owed an honor I am not, worship me as God, Daniel does not give that to him. He gives that honor to God. And Darius says, hey, great, I appreciate your new... No, he throws him in the lion's den. He doesn't want to do it, but he has to honor his own decree, so he does. Now, Daniel emerges unscathed the next day. No promise, but he doesn't know that going in. And we don't know that either. We get thrown in the lion's den too. We may or may not emerge unscathed. But regardless, even if we don't, and our Lord allows us to suffer, as he allowed those first Christians to lose to the lions in the Colosseum every single day that ended in Y in Rome, when they awoke next, what they heard was what? Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master. So we follow the chain of command, period. We submit to Christ. We submit to others through Christ, but when others depart from Christ, we submit to Christ rather than them. That applies both ecclesiastically and also civically. That applies domestically in a family where the father is the head of the home. But if he is not submitting to Christ, the family is not to follow his lead, they're to follow Christ. And how many times do you think Christ is going to steer you wrong? What do you think that number is?
0.
And since you know Christ is never going to steer you wrong, Christ has already given you more than you could ever give him. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to wrestle with these kinds of things. If you look at it that way, you don't have to wrestle with it.
Can I ask you a question then?
Yes.
Because this has come up a lot.
A lot, yes.
And I just have to respond again the same. If Scripture comments upon Scripture, and there's a lot of Scripture, how... People have more of a problem than with this verse than seemingly any, at least that's regularly brought to our show.
Mm-hmm.
I think a honest reading comprehensively of Scripture obviously answers this question. In my eyes, in my heart. I'm asking you the same question I asked again. this is the second time this week I've done this. I got to, like, what's going on? Why?
Well, in fairness to the believers of this era, this has been a challenge for believers of every era. Okay? I mean, this has been a challenge. Is this acknowledgement? I mean,
you just answer. You always give a very close version with some different historical of the answer you just gave, because I think you're proving it's not. Even if it's not that complicated. So
it's not, but it's also largely untaught. So imagine how difficult this was in any era where this was actually, because there's two reasons it's difficult. One is you haven't been catechized into understanding it intellectually. Two is, even if you have, which would have been the case in many other eras of the church, following through on it, given what the consequences to come, is what is difficult. I mean, Christ himself, for example, sits there in the Garden of Gethsemane, sweating blood, praying that the cup of wrath that is about to be poured out on him, and by whom? Well, ultimately by God, but what's the instrument that's going to pour this cup of wrath upon him? The state is going to do it. He knows this, right? The government is, okay? I mean, even he knowing what's going to happen and why it has to happen, and agreeing the Son is in the Father and the Father is in the Son, and agreeing before we understood it, that this was going to take place in his human form, he is still sweating so anxiously that he is sweating blood. Okay. The problem we have in this era is it's even before we get to the challenge of following through on it, we haven't been discipled like this accordingly. We have been discipled that we are individuals only. Okay. Not just that we have an individual relationship with God, that we can all now boldly approach the throne of grace. The veil has been torn. All right. But that we are now individuals even within a corporate setting. Okay, that God kind of responds to us, waits to see hey, I couldn't save you until you chose me, so I'm just gonna. Now that you did, we got something to work with here. You see what I'm saying? That the sovereignty of God is tremendously diminished in much of American preaching today, really across every sector, yours and ours, and so this becomes difficult to grasp intellectually even before the knock comes on the door and it's time for you to see if you can choose ye this day whom you will serve. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That this just hasn't even been taught intellectually to people. And so they don't get it. Also, keep in mind, as many of us did not have a good father in the home. And so to understand what it means to live within a proper chain of command, what the head of the house means, we just don't come from an era where that was modeled properly to us. We saw roles. We grew up in homes where the children were asked to grow up too soon and give counsel like adults, and mom was asked to do the discipline in ways that only a dad should. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so this is systemic of a breakdown of society and also of discipleship within the church. So this has not been modeled in real life in the home in many places, or taught intellectually to the masses in the pews in many churches.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, powered by our friends over at Lassie Health. That's Lassie, Laasy. Now, Lassie is not health insurance. It's access to health care you want without the red tape, restrictions, all the inflated, exploding cost of our healthcare that are happening right now. They've got coverage plans that start as low as $30 a month. With that, you'd get 400 prescription medications for free, free unlimited virtual mental health counseling, free 24/7 virtual urgent care, lab tests for up to 60% off, imaging tests for up to 75% off, procedures and surgeries over 50% off. And again, that's their baseline plan. And it only gets better from there with transparent pricing, comprehensive coverage tailored to your needs, and access to healthcare services without breaking the bank. And plus, there's no annual or lifetime caps on services, so you can start a plan also at any time that you want. All right. As you can see, Lassie Health is a game changer. Check out affordable plans that put you in control of your health at healthylink.com/Steve. For a limited time, get your first month for free. That's up to $100 off eligible plans. So get healthy, be healthy, and stay healthy without breaking the bank at healthylink.com/Steve. That's healthylink.com/Steve. All right. I think we need to get a show ruling on something here that has not come up as much as I thought it would, but it has been a bit divisive, I would say, with a small contingent of this audience on both sides of the debate. Okay?
Sola Scriptura.
No, that's a much bigger debate. Jason Faulkner in Carlisle, Ohio writes, please clarify, when you say retard, do you mean someone who is slow or slow to learn? Now, I would say no, that is a disability, okay? Like Down syndrome is a disability. That is something someone is born with, all right? When we use this term on our show, it means someone that has a comprehensively self-demonically induced foolishness that is so profound, we just don't think words like stupid or dumb would do it justice, all right? Now, there is a vocal debate in my inbox, gentlemen. People both for, and it's pretty split, people both for and against resurrecting this term in the context in which we are trying to use it. The for people get the clarification of what we're doing here. The anti people just think the term is so loaded, and several of them have, their children in their own life or people in their own life with Down syndrome. They just bristle at hearing the term, which I could completely understand, given the context of how it has been used to diminish the capacity and agency of these kinds of people in the past. So I'm fine moving on and sticking with what we're doing now. I'm fine if we never use the term again, but anybody have a thought, or should we get a ruling on this? What do you think?
I think the ruling that we made in the overtime where we discussed this was with the clarification always prefacing the use of that word by saying self-imposed. And it's a self-imposed retardation, or self-imposed retard is a slowing down. You are slowing yourself. You are doing this to yourself. You're not functioning at the level that you should be functioning, and it's your own fault and your own choice. That's the way I think that that's the conclusion I thought we came to in the overtime episode that we talked about this. So I'm still fine with it. Although my aunt, God rest her soul, she was what you would call, the slang for that, which was common 40 years ago.
So she was just disabled.
She was disabled, yes. So it's not like this is not in, my family as well. But I'm fine with the use of the term as long as it's prefaced by self-imposed.
All right, Todd, what do you think?
I'm going to be honest. I don't care.
There you go.
Here's why. Just watch Aaron's montage on any given day. And many, I know, I'll just speak for myself, my rants about being the broader issue of being comfortable. We're always so scared of words and what they're doing, and we're just we're on emotional tilt, and we're nearly at the end here. And listen, there's no way around the fact that words have to be used, points have to be made in ways that wake you up. So I think there's a far broader issue at play here. And, if it's not this with Steve, it's me with other things, and you're the no fun guy. And guys, we're doing, and I know Steve's always trying to be doing, and he's doing this now more than probably he's ever been done before. Like, this isn't just talk. It never has been, but it's all a call to action right now before the clock strikes 12.
Okay. Keith Singleton writes, I hear and see your podcast after the fact because I'm an over-the-road truck driver from Florida working out of Oklahoma. I run a day or two behind getting all the shows. I've wanted to quit 2 things this year: cigarette smoking and listening to you guys. That's great. That is tremendous. Thanks to a cessation program from my primary physician, I smoke less and will kick the habit entirely soon. Good for you. I hadn't spoken to my doctor about quitting your show because I was hooked by the spiritual aspect that you guys bring to our political environment. As irritated as I was by your Never Trump roots, in support of my Governor DeSantis in the primary, I found value in your perspective being different from my exuberant support of Trump. I don't agree with you politically at times. Every time Todd referred to Trump as a narcissist, I wanted to remove you from my playlist. I hesitated because Aaron's What Happened While We Were Away segment touched on the highlights of most of each day's leading issues. Still, I formed many ranting emails in my head as I drove across our country but never followed through when I parked for a break. But now I get it. Your stand is not so much for or against any candidate or issue. You have an opinion in these matters that I can take or leave. Your direct, hard, uncompromising stand against evil is why I listen. Therein lies the value to me as a listener. My show-watching catharsis occurred when Seth Gruber was on recently. Hearing him made me want to quit trucking to start a ministry of delivering sackcloth and ashes to ministers and ministries giving away our next generation of the mob. Now that is a compliment that I think Seth would love. Don't change anything. You guys aren't my spiritual guide, but you are a voice I need to hear whether I agree at all times or not. And I love you all very much in Christ. Again, that is from Keith Singleton.
Keith, I just want to say, like, you supporting Trump all along and not DeSantis, and fine.
You still listen to us? That's the biggest compliment we could get, probably.
What was true in 2016, what is true in 2020, what is 2024 now? He said, and I know that wasn't me. I don't know. Steve has coined the label narcissistic personality disorder as it applies to him before. But like, whether you support him or not, see, that seems to be one of the things that's just true. See, don't. You can have your preferences, okay, but don't have your own realities. We're voting for the guy now. He's a narcissist, all right? I voted for him in 2020. He was a narcissist. Like, that's what we got to stop doing. It's the same thing as the last thing. Which word? We're getting all bent out of shape in weird emotional ways about things. We've been battling politicians the entire existence of this country. Then my guy lost. I got to pivot over here. That's nothing new. But the reasons why, like, you find no-go zones in labels that are entirely accurate. Why? It helps to be honest about the people you're dealing with, and then you know how maybe you can pivot them, manipulate them, steer them the way you want to. But, like, being mad that people ever called Donald Trump a narcissist is like being mad that water's wet.
This is the most Todd reply ever. This guy writes a note talking about how he overlooked our differences because he really respects our integrity.
I said,
and Todd jumps right on the one thing that he thinks the guy needs to be corrected.
Whatever I said, our show motto is "F you" and thanks for listening.
I'm not. This is what you had to overcome, because like that, nothing changed. Nothing changed about that, and that we all have to work on that. I think.
I agree that there are. And that's why we just had the conversation we had about using the term retarded.
Yeah.
Are there terms, though? We are human beings and not formulas, and are there terms and things that we say that are that are unnecessary to say them that way? Because, and I used to use this with my political clients. I used to, because I love the movie Up, and so I used to call them squirrels. If you say that term, if you use it that way, the minute you drop that, squirrel, it won't matter. Everything's distracted now. It will not matter what you said after you said that, and it won't matter at all what you're going to say, what you said before. Everything's going to be about that. So if you think that term and using it at that time is worth doing so, then just know that that's going to be the cost, right? And I think, and we have to wrestle with that, and I have to constantly wrestle with that myself. No question about it. I mean, the thing that I think you nailed, Keith, for sure, is we really don't have another agenda here other than what we think. And we want a biblical worldview to be the foundation of what we think. That's really it, man. I mean, that there really isn't anything more complicated than that. I mean, there isn't any other ulterior plan, I let you guys in on as many of my private conversations with sources and people I know as I possibly can. I mean, there's nothing, doesn't mean we're right. We're not right all the time. No one is. All right. Doesn't mean you have to agree, I mean,
Hasn't Trump himself made us more wrong than anything or anybody?
In the last 10 years, I've had every conceivable opinion of Donald Trump. Okay, I've nearly taken a job from him. I've tried to did whatever I could to stop him from becoming president. I did whatever I could to help him become president again. Okay, I did what I could to stop him from being the nominee again. Now I'm trying to help him be president. I've taken them all. All right, I've had every position. All right, I've been Jonah Goldberg. Okay, all right. I've been Jonah Goldberg. I've been Charlie Kirk. All right. I've been everything. I've been everything, guys. Everything.
I've been Omarosa.
I don't know that I've been that. Okay, but I've been everything. I've done. Have you
been Lindsey Graham?
Oh.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Lindsey Graham says that most nights and in a different context.
Oh my He's a comedian.
Yes.
He did it.
Yes. But all of those positions were taken from a position of it's what I really thought at the time. And I think I have evidence for why I think it. Not always right, but that's it. And I think that's very frustrating to people until they can figure that out about us, is we really don't belong to a faction. I got a team. Okay, I don't need another team. I'm good. I'm on Team Jesus. All right. I'm not much of a joiner by nature anyway, and I got a team, and I'm on the only undefeated team in the history of the entire freaking universe. So I'm good. I don't need another team. What I need are people since I've got my team, right? I'm on Team Jesus. I got my team. And why would you need another team if you're on the team I'm on Team King of the Universe. On that team. He picked me. Thank God. Okay. I'm on that team. Why would I want to join another team when I already have that team, right? What I need then are people to just do their damn job. That's all I need. And most people are not wired this way in this era. I am. And that makes me abnormal. I cannot stand Roger Stone. But if he's responsible for cutting the deal that we anticipate is going to be announced shortly after this show ends today, thanks, Raj. Did your job. I don't care if he hates me, because I know that he doesn't like me that much. I don't care if he tweets every day about me, okay? All right? And your mom. I don't care. All right? He got RFK Jr. out of the race and supporting my side. That's all I care about. I got a team. I'm not on Team Roger Stone. I'm on Team Jesus. That's all I care about. I'm good.
That's my really point about the narcissist. Just let's do the thing.
I've got DeSantis people that love me. You're freaking out, sending me notes. So you're going to back J.D. Vance in 2028. I'm trying to make it that we have a 2028. I would like to have a 2028. We're running against people doing price controls, okay, and gender mutilations and open borders. I would like to. I long. You know what, Lord, hear my prayer. I want the pressure and the division that comes between having to choose between J.D. Vance and Ron DeSantis in 2028. I long for that. I will take all of it, all the hate, all right? Knowing no matter which of these two I chose, I'm alienating good friends of mine and people who love the show. I'm a traitor no matter what I do. Oh my gosh. I'm just speaking for me here. But that is a trip to Cedar Point for free compared to what these people are trying to do to us right now. You know what I'm trying to say? I don't, that's all I care about. I don't know J.D. Vance at all. He might go in there. I don't think that'll happen. Heck, we just talked about what an advantage we think he'd be as VP, but he might go in there and face plant. I don't know. He might. I don't know. 4 years is a long time. All I know is I don't know that we've got 4 more years, and I would like to do what I can to make that happen. That's all I care about. There isn't a hidden agenda. There's nothing else. It's literally just me coming on the air and telling you what I think every day based on a biblical worldview as best as I understand it at that time in my life. That's it. That's the whole show. There's nothing else. There's nothing else happening here. I'm wearing a Chargers jersey, and it's not even their really good one, okay? And I wore this to work, and hundreds of thousands of people are seeing me wear this. Yesterday, I wore a jersey for a team I don't even root for because it had Joe Namath's name on it, and it was from 3 sizes ago. I could literally cuddle up in it for a blanket tonight, all right? There's nothing else more complicated happening here other than I just like to get paid to say what I think. And what I try to make what I think line up with the biblical worldview as much as I can. That's it. These guys will tell you, sequester them someday when I'm not here, waterboard them. And they're going to come right out and say, he just tells you what he thinks. There's nothing else happening, And that's why it takes people some time to understand that about us. And I've had so many friends in this business come and go, so many people that were guests in my home and they're my enemies later or my friends again. And I didn't change anything other than I think that person's going to do the job I think we need done right now. The job we need done right now is we cannot have whatever forces are behind the Biden presidency and behind the Kamala scam. We cannot afford to compound what they've already done to this country for the last 4 years for another 4 years. That's it. That's it. That's literally all there is. That's it. That's it. That's it. He won't because he doesn't operate this way. But if Ron DeSantis called me tomorrow and said, hey, help, I'm looking at, getting together some people to talk about 2020. I said, don't do that. Got to wait to see what happens here to even see what kind of an environment we're in and focus on that, So thank you, Keith. And congrats, man. I've had so many family members fight that battle. My own wife with smoking. I know how hard that is. So props to you for that, brother. Everybody have a great weekend. We're back at it again on Monday. Until then, Romans 8:28.